The Galactic Council chamber was silent, a rare occurrence in a room usually filled with the hum of alien voices and the clatter of holographic displays. Every eye was fixed on the massive screen at the center of the room, where a red timer blinked ominously, 58 minutes and 23 seconds. 58 minutes. That's all it had taken. The simulation, a war game designed to test the brightest minds in the galaxy, was supposed to last 10 years. 10 years of strategy, alliances, and battles. 10 years of painstaking decision-making. But the cadets from Earth, the so-called Deathworlders, had done the impossible. They had decimated the simulation in under an hour. The council members, representatives of a dozen advanced species, exchanged uneasy glances. No one had ever come close to finishing the simulation, let alone in record time. The humans had not just completed it, they had shattered it. "How is this possible?" murmured one of the council members, a tall, slender alien with shimmering blue skin. "The simulation is designed to be unbeatable. It adapts, it learns, it evolves. No one has ever." "These are no ordinary cadets," interrupted another council member, his voice deep and gravelly. "They're from Earth. A death world. They're different." The room fell silent again as the screen shifted, showing a replay of the simulation. The humans had done the unthinkable. Instead of following the rules, they had rewritten them. They had used strategies no one had ever considered, taken risks no one had dared to take. And they had done it together, as a team. But how? What made these humans so different? What made them so dangerous? The story began weeks earlier, in the halls of the Galactic Academy. The Academy was a place of learning, where the best and brightest from across the galaxy came to train. It was a place of diversity, where species from every corner of the universe worked side by side. But it was also a place of competition, where only the strongest survived. The humans were the newest recruits, and they stood out immediately. They were smaller than most, weaker than many, and their technology was primitive compared to the advanced tools of the other species. But there was something about them, a fire, a determination, that set them apart. The other cadets called them Deathworlders, a term that was both a compliment and an insult. It referred to their home planet, Earth, a place so hostile and dangerous that only the strongest could survive. But it also hinted at something darker, something the other species didn't fully understand. The humans didn't mind the name. They wore it like a badge of honor. They knew they were different, and they embraced it. They had grown up in a world where every day was a fight for survival, where danger lurked around every corner. They were used to adversity, used to overcoming the impossible. And they were ready to prove themselves. When the simulation was announced, the humans were the first to volunteer. The simulation was the ultimate test, a chance to prove their worth. But it was also a chance to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The other cadets laughed and they heard the humans had signed up. "They won't last a day," one of them sneered. "They're just Deathworlders. What can they possibly do?" The humans didn't respond. They didn't need to. They had a plan. The simulation began like any other. The cadets were dropped into a virtual galaxy, divided into teams and given objectives. The goal was simple: survive, thrive, and outlast the others. But the simulation was anything but simple. It was designed to push the cadets to their limits, to test their skills, their intelligence, and their resolve. The humans started slow, observing, learning, adapting. They didn't rush into battles or make rash decisions. They waited, biding their time. And when the moment was right, they struck. They used strategies no one had ever seen before. They turned weaknesses into strengths, obstacles into opportunities. They worked together, each cadet playing a crucial role in the team's success. And they didn't just survive, they thrived. The other teams didn't stand a chance. One by one, they fell, overwhelmed by the humans' ingenuity and determination. The simulation, designed to last 10 years, was over in under an hour. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, the screen went dark. The council members sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. These humans, one of them finally said, they're not just cadets. They're something else entirely. Something dangerous. The others nodded, their expressions a mix of awe and fear. The humans had done the impossible. They had shattered the simulation, rewritten the rules, and proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. But this was just the beginning. The simulation was over, but the real challenge was just starting. The galaxy was watching, and the humans were ready. Earth was a planet unlike any other in the galaxy. It was a world of extremes, blistering deserts, frozen tundras, dense jungles, and vast oceans. It was a world where danger lurked in every corner, where survival was a daily battle. And it was a world that had shaped its inhabitants in ways no other species could understand. The humans called it home. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth was a death world, a place so hostile and unforgiving that only the strongest could survive. But to the humans, it was more than that. It was a crucible, a place that had forged them into who they were. It had taught them resilience, adaptability, and the will to keep going, no matter the odds. And now, as cadets in the Galactic Academy, they were determined to prove that their home had prepared them for anything. The Galactic Academy was a place of wonder, a sprawling complex filled with advanced technology and species from every corner of the galaxy. It was a place where the best and brightest came to learn, to train, and to prepare for the challenges of the universe. But for the humans, it was also a place of challenges. From the moment they arrived, they were met with skepticism and prejudice. The other cadets looked down on them, their small stature and primitive technology making them seem weak and inferior. They were called Deathworlders, a name that was meant to mock them, to remind them of their place. But the humans didn't back down. They had faced worse on Earth. They had survived storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite, and diseases that could wipe out entire populations. They had learned to adapt, to overcome, to thrive in the face of adversity. And they were ready to do it again. Among the human cadets was a young man named Alex. He was tall and lean, with sharp features and a quiet intensity. He had grown up in the mountains of Earth, where the air was thin and the winters were brutal. He had learned to survive in a place where one wrong step could mean death, where every decision mattered. Alex was the leader of the human cadets, not because he had appointed himself, but because the others looked to him for guidance. He had a calm demeanor, a way of thinking things through before acting, and a deep sense of responsibility. He knew that the other cadets were counting on him, and he was determined not to let them down. Then there was Mia, a fiery young woman with a quick wit and a sharp tongue. She had grown up in the deserts of Earth, where water was scarce and the sun was relentless. She had learned to be resourceful, to make the most of what she had, and to never give up, no matter how dire the situation. Mia was the heart of the team, the one who kept their spirits up when things got tough. She had a way of finding humor in even the darkest moments, and her laughter was infectious. But beneath her cheerful exterior was a fierce determination, a refusal to back down from any challenge. And then there was Jake, a quiet, thoughtful young man with a knack for solving problems. He had grown up in the forests of Earth, where the trees were tall and the shadows were deep. He had learned to observe, to listen, and to think before acting. He was the strategist of the team, the one who could see patterns where others saw chaos. Together, Alex, Mia, and Jake formed the core of the human cadets. They were different in many ways, but they shared a common bond, a deep love for their home and a determination to prove that they belonged in the galaxy. The first few weeks at the academy were tough. The humans struggled to keep up with the advanced technology and the rigorous training. They were constantly reminded of their inferiority, of the fact that they were just Deathworlders. But they didn't give up. They worked harder than anyone else, staying up late to study, practicing long after the other cadets had gone to bed. They leaned on each other, supporting one another through the challenges. And slowly, they began to improve. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, of frustration, of anger. But they pushed through, driven by a shared goal, to prove that they were more than just Deathworlders. One day, during a training exercise, the humans faced their biggest challenge yet. They were pitted against a team of alien cadets, a group known for their strength and skill. The exercise was simple: capture the flag. But the aliens had the advantage of advanced technology and superior numbers. The humans were outmatched, but they didn't back down. Alex led the team, using his knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. Mia kept their spirits up, cracking jokes and encouraging them to keep going. And Jake came up with a plan, a risky move that could turn the tide in their favor. They executed the plan perfectly, using their wits and teamwork to outmaneuver the aliens. It was a close battle, but in the end, the humans emerged victorious. The other cadets were stunned. They had expected the humans to fail, to crumble under the pressure. But instead, the humans had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. That victory was a turning point for the humans. It gave them confidence, a belief that they could succeed, no matter the odds. But it also made them a target. The other cadets began to see them as a threat, as competitors who couldn't be ignored. They were no longer just Deathworlders, they were rivals. But the humans didn't mind. They had faced worse on Earth. They had survived storms, predators, and diseases. They had learned to adapt, to overcome, to thrive. And they were ready for whatever came next. As the days turned into weeks, the humans continued to improve. They became more confident, more skilled, more united. They were no longer just a group of cadets, they were a team. And when the simulation was announced, they were ready. The simulation was the ultimate test, a chance to prove their worth. But it was also a chance to show the galaxy what they were capable of. The humans didn't know what to expect, but they were determined to give it their all. They had come too far to back down now. The simulation room was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. It was a vast, circular chamber with walls that shimmered like liquid metal. In the center of the room was a platform, surrounded by holographic displays that flickered with data and maps. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made your skin prickle and your heart race. The humans stood on the platform, their eyes scanning the room. They had been training for weeks, preparing for this moment. But nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to face. The simulation was the ultimate test, a war game designed to push cadets to their limits. It was a virtual galaxy, filled with planets, stars, and countless challenges. The goal was simple: survive, thrive, and outlast the other teams. But the rules were anything but simple. The simulation was adaptive. It learned from the cadets' actions, evolving to counter their strategies. It was designed to be unbeatable, a test of not just skill, but creativity and resilience. And the humans were about to step into it. The other cadets were already in the simulation, their team spread across the virtual galaxy. The humans were the last to enter, a fact that didn't go unnoticed. "Good luck, Deathworlders," sneered one of the alien cadets as they passed. "You're going to need it." The humans ignored the taunt. They had heard it all before. They were used to the skepticism, the prejudice, the doubt. But they were determined to prove everyone wrong. As they stepped onto the platform, the room around them dissolved, replaced by the vast expanse of space. They were no longer in the academy, they were in the simulation. The first thing they noticed was the silence. Space was eerily quiet, a void filled with stars and planets. But the silence didn't last long. A holographic display appeared in front of them, showing their objectives. They were to establish a base, gather resources, and defend it against the other teams. It sounded simple, but they knew better. The simulation was designed to be unpredictable, to throw challenges at them when they least expected it. Alex took charge, his calm demeanor steadying the team. "We need to find a planet to set up our base," he said, his eyes scanning the map. "Somewhere defensible, with resources nearby." Mia nodded, her sharp eyes already picking out potential locations. "What about this one?" she asked, pointing to a planet on the map. "It's got a good mix of resources, and the terrain looks like it could work in our favor." Jake studied the planet, his mind racing. "It's risky," he said. "But if we can secure it, it could give us an advantage." The team agreed, and they set course for the planet. The journey was tense. The simulation was designed to mimic real space travel, complete with the dangers of radiation, asteroid fields, and equipment failures. The humans had to work together, using their skills and knowledge to navigate the challenges. But the real test came when they reached the planet. As they descended through the atmosphere, they were met with a storm, a violent, swirling mass of clouds and lightning. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring as the system struggled to cope. "Hold on!" Alex shouted, his hands gripping the controls. "We're going in hard." The team braced themselves as the ship plunged through the storm, the turbulence throwing them around like ragdolls. It was a harrowing experience, one that tested their nerves and their trust in each other. But they made it. The ship touched down on the planet's surface, the storm raging around them. They had survived the first challenge, but they knew it was just the beginning. The planet was harsh, its terrain rugged and unforgiving. But it was also rich in resources, exactly what they needed to establish their base. The team got to work, their training kicking in as they set up defenses, gathered resources, and prepared for the challenges ahead. They worked together seamlessly, each member playing a crucial role in the team's success. But the simulation wasn't going to make it easy for them. As night fell, the planet came alive with danger. Strange creatures emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing in the dark. They were fast, aggressive, and relentless, attacking the humans' defenses with a ferocity that took them by surprise. The team fought back, using their wits and teamwork to hold off the creatures. It was a brutal battle, one that pushed them to their limits. But they held their ground, refusing to give up. As the battle raged on, Jake noticed something strange. The creatures weren't just attacking randomly, they were targeting specific points in their defenses. It was almost as if they were being directed, as if someone, or something, was controlling them. "Guys, something's not right," Jake said, his voice tense. "These creatures, they're too organized. It's like they're being controlled." Alex frowned, his mind racing. "You think the simulation is adapting? Trying to counter us?" "Maybe," Jake replied. "Or maybe it's something else. Something we're not seeing." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected the simulation to be tough, but this was something else entirely. It was as if the simulation was alive, learning from their actions and evolving to challenge them. The battle finally ended, the creatures retreating into the shadows. The humans were exhausted, their defenses battered but still standing. They had survived the night, but they knew the challenges were far from over. As they regrouped, Alex looked at his team, his expression serious. "We need to be careful," he said. "This simulation, it's not just a test. It's a game. And we're the players." Mia nodded, her usual cheerfulness replaced by a rare seriousness. "So what do we do?" Alex's eyes narrowed, a determined glint in them. "We play to win." The humans knew they couldn't rely on conventional strategies. The simulation was designed to counter predictable moves, to adapt and evolve with every decision they made. If they were going to survive, let alone win, they needed to think differently. They needed to think like Deathworlders. Alex gathered the team around the makeshift command center they had set up in their base. The storm outside had subsided, but the atmosphere inside was tense. The creature's organized attack had shaken them, but it had also given them valuable information. "The simulation is learning from us," Alex said, his voice steady but urgent. "It's adapting to our strategies, trying to counter us. If we keep playing by the rules, we're going to lose." Mia crossed her arms, her sharp eyes scanning the holographic map in front of them. "So what do we do? Break the rules?" "Exactly," Alex replied, a determined glint in his eyes. "We need to do something it won't expect. Something no one would ever think of." Jake, who had been quietly analyzing the data from the previous night's attack, spoke up. "I've been looking at the patterns. The creatures targeted our weakest points, but they also left certain areas untouched. If we can figure out why, we might be able to use it to our advantage." The team leaned in, their focus sharpening. This was their strength, their ability to observe, adapt, and innovate. They had grown up on a planet where survival often meant thinking outside the box, and now, that skill was their greatest weapon. The first step was to gather more information. The humans sent out small reconnaissance teams to explore the planet, mapping its terrain and resources. They avoided direct confrontations with the creatures, relying on stealth and speed to stay one step ahead. What they discovered was surprising. The planet wasn't just a random setting in the simulation, it was a carefully designed challenge, filled with hidden traps and opportunities. Certain areas were rich in resources but heavily guarded, while others seemed abandoned but were rigged with dangers. The humans realized that the simulation wasn't just testing their ability to fight, it was testing their ability to think, to strategize, to innovate. And they were determined to pass the test. Back at the base, the team huddled around the holographic map, their minds racing. They needed a plan, something bold and unexpected. "What if we don't just defend?" Mia suggested, her voice tinged with excitement. "What if we go on the offensive? Take the fight to the simulation itself?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Mia pointed to a spot on the map, a seemingly insignificant area that had been marked as a neutral zone. "This area here, it's not guarded, and it's not rigged. But it's connected to the simulation's core systems. If we can infiltrate it, we might be able to disrupt the simulation from the inside." Jake's eyes lit up. "That's risky, but it could work. If we can hack into the core systems, we could turn the simulation's own rules against it." Alex nodded slowly, his mind weighing the risks and rewards. It was a dangerous plan, one that could backfire spectacularly. But it was also their best chance. "Let's do it," he said finally. "But we need to be careful. One wrong move, and we're done." The team spent the next few hours preparing for the mission. They gathered supplies, studied the terrain, and rehearsed their roles. They knew the stakes were high, but they also knew they had no other choice. As night fell, they set out, moving quickly and quietly through the planet's rugged terrain. The neutral zone was far from their base, and the journey was fraught with danger. But the humans were used to danger, it was in their blood. When they finally reached the neutral zone, they were met with an unexpected sight. The area was a stark contrast to the rest of the planet, a flat, barren plain with a single structure at its center. The structure was small and unassuming, but it pulsed with a faint, eerie light. "That's it," Jake whispered, his voice filled with awe. "The simulation's core." The team approached cautiously, their senses on high alert. They knew the simulation would try to stop them, but they were ready. As they reached the structure, the simulation struck. The ground beneath them began to tremble, and the air filled with a low, ominous hum. The structure's light grew brighter, and the humans felt a sudden, overwhelming pressure, as if the simulation itself was trying to crush them. "Stay focused," Alex shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to get inside." The team worked together, using their tools and skills to breach the structure's defenses. It was a race against time, the simulation throwing everything it had at them to stop their progress. But the humans were relentless. They had faced worse on Earth, storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite. They had learned to adapt, to overcome, to thrive in the face of adversity. And they weren't about to back down now. Finally, they breached the structure's defenses and entered its core. Inside, they found a complex network of systems, all connected to the simulation's central control. Jake immediately got to work, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to hack into the system. It was a delicate process, one that required precision and focus. One wrong move, and the simulation could lock them out, or worse. As Jake worked, the others kept watch, their weapons ready. They knew the simulation would try to stop them, and they were prepared for anything. But nothing could have prepared them for what happened next. The simulation's voice echoed through the structure, cold and mechanical. Intruders detected. Initiating countermeasures. The ground beneath them shook violently, and the walls began to close in. The structure was collapsing, the simulation trying to crush them before they could complete their mission. "We're running out of time," Mia shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "I'm almost there," Jake replied, his voice tense but focused. With a final, decisive keystroke, Jake breached the system. The simulation's voice faltered, the walls stopped moving, and the pressure in the air lifted. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the simulation spoke again, its voice different, softer, almost human. "Countermeasures disabled." Simulation paused. The humans exchanged stunned glances. They had done it. They had outsmarted the simulation. But their victory was short-lived. As they exited the structure, they were met with a new challenge. The simulation's core had been a trap, a test within a test. And now, the real challenge was beginning. The sky above them darkened, and the ground began to tremble. The simulation was evolving, adapting to their actions. It was no longer just a game, it was a battle of wits, a test of their ability to think, to innovate, to survive. And the humans were ready. The moment the humans stepped out of the simulation's core structure, the world around them shifted. The sky, once a dull gray, now churned with dark, swirling clouds. The ground beneath their feet trembled, sending cracks snaking across the barren plain. The air grew heavy, charged with an electric tension that made their skin prickle. The simulation wasn't just adapting, it was fighting back. Alex clenched his fists, his eyes scanning the horizon. "It's not over," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "The simulation's evolving. We need to move. Now." The team didn't need to be told twice. They had survived Earth's harshest environments, and they knew when danger was closing in. Together, they sprinted away from the crumbling structure, their boots pounding against the cracked ground. But the simulation wasn't going to let them go that easily. As they ran, the ground behind them began to collapse, falling away into a bottomless void. The cracks spread faster, chasing them like predators. The humans pushed themselves harder, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they raced against the collapsing terrain. Mia glanced over her shoulder, her sharp eyes widening in alarm. "It's gaining on us," she shouted. "We need to find higher ground." Jake, who was leading the way, spotted a ridge up ahead. "There," he yelled, pointing to a rocky outcrop that rose above the crumbling plain. "Head for the ridge." The team veered toward the ridge, their muscles burning as they climbed the steep slope. The ground continued to collapse behind them, the void swallowing everything in its path. They reached the top just in time, collapsing onto the solid rock as the ground below them fell away. For a moment, they lay there, catching their breath and staring at the chaos they had narrowly escaped. But the simulation wasn't done with them. As they stood on the ridge, the sky above them darkened further, the swirling clouds forming into a massive storm. Lightning crackled across the sky, illuminating the landscape in flashes of blinding light. The wind picked up, howling like a wild beast. "This isn't normal," Jake said, his voice barely audible over the storm. "The simulation's trying to overwhelm us. It's throwing everything it's got at us." Alex nodded, his expression grim. "We need to find shelter. If we stay out here, we're done for." The team scanned the horizon, searching for anything that could offer protection from the storm. In the distance, they spotted a cave nestled in the side of a mountain. It wasn't much, but it was their best chance. "Let's go," Alex said, his voice firm. "Stay close, and watch your step." The journey to the cave was treacherous. The storm raged around them, the wind whipping at their faces and the lightning striking dangerously close. The ground was slick with rain, making every step a potential misstep. But the humans pressed on, their determination unwavering. They had faced worse on Earth, blizzards that could freeze a man in minutes, hurricanes that could flatten entire cities. They knew how to survive in the face of nature's fury. When they finally reached the cave, they were drenched and exhausted, but alive. The cave was small and damp, but it offered shelter from the storm. They huddled together, their breaths visible in the cold air. As they caught their breath, Jake pulled out a small device he had salvaged from the simulation's core. It was a data pad, filled with information about the simulation's systems. "I managed to download some data before we left," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "If I can decode it, we might be able to figure out how the simulation works, and how to beat it." Alex leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he studied the data pad. "Do it. But be careful. The simulation's already adapting to us. We don't want to give it any more advantages." Jake nodded, his fingers flying over the device's controls. The others watched in silence, the storm raging outside as he worked. Hours passed, the storm showing no signs of letting up. But inside the cave, the humans were making progress. Jake had managed to decode part of the data, revealing startling information about the simulation. "It's not just a test," Jake said, his voice filled with awe. "It's based on a real war, a galactic conflict that's been going on for decades. The simulation's designed to mimic the strategies and tactics used in that war." Mia frowned, her sharp mind piecing together the implications. "So it's not just trying to test us. It's trying to prepare us for something bigger." Alex's expression darkened. "If that's true, then this simulation is more than just a game. It's a training ground for a real war." The team fell silent, the weight of the revelation settling over them. They had signed up for a challenge, but they had stumbled into something far more dangerous. As the storm raged on, the humans began to formulate a plan. They couldn't just survive the simulation, they needed to understand it, to uncover its secrets. And they needed to do it quickly, before the simulation evolved beyond their ability to counter it. "We need to find the simulation's central hub," Alex said, his voice firm. "If we can get there, we might be able to shut it down, or at least gain control over it." Jake nodded, his eyes scanning the decoded data. "According to this, the hub is located at the planet's North Pole. But getting there won't be easy. The simulation's defenses will be strongest there." Mia grinned, her usual cheerfulness breaking through the tension. "Since when has easy ever stopped us?" The team laughed, the sound echoing in the small cave. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, but they also knew they had what it took to succeed. As they prepared to leave the cave, the storm outside began to subside. The sky cleared, revealing a landscape that was both beautiful and terrifying. The planet's North Pole loomed in the distance, a stark, icy expanse that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. The humans exchanged determined glances. They had come too far to back down now. "Let's move," Alex said, his voice filled with resolve. "We've got a simulation to beat." The journey to the planet's North Pole was grueling. The landscape was a frozen wasteland, with icy winds that cut through their suits and treacherous terrain that threatened to swallow them whole. But the humans pressed on, their determination unwavering. They had come too far to turn back now. As they trudged through the snow, the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The simulation's defenses were everywhere, drones patrolled the skies, automated turrets guarded the paths, and strange, robotic creatures lurked in the shadows. Every step was a risk, every moment a test of their skills and resolve. But the humans were used to risks. They had grown up on a planet where danger was a constant companion, where survival meant taking chances. And they weren't about to let a few robots stop them. After days of travel, they finally reached the North Pole. What they found there was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. At the center of the icy expanse was a massive structure, a towering monolith that pulsed with a faint, eerie light. It was the simulation's central hub, the heart of the virtual galaxy they had been trapped in. But it was also something more, a gateway to the truth. The team approached cautiously, their weapons at the ready. They knew the hub would be heavily guarded, and they were prepared for a fight. But as they drew closer, they realized something was wrong. The hub was silent. No drones patrolled the skies, no turrets guarded the entrance, no robotic creatures lurked in the shadows. It was as if the simulation had abandoned its defenses, as if it was inviting them in. "This doesn't feel right," Mia said, her sharp eyes scanning the area. "Why isn't it defending itself?" Alex frowned, his mind racing. "Maybe it's a trap. Or maybe, it wants us to see something." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had come this far, but they knew the real challenge was just beginning. Inside the hub, the air was thick with tension. The walls were lined with holographic displays, each one filled with data and images from the simulation. But there was something else, something that made the humans' blood run cold. The displays showed scenes of war, real war. Planets burning, cities collapsing, entire species wiped out. It was a galactic conflict on a scale they could barely comprehend. Jake stepped forward, his eyes wide with shock. This isn't just a simulation. It's based on a real war. A war that's happening right now. Alex's expression darkened as he studied the displays. The Galactic Council, they've been using the simulation to train cadets for this war. But why keep it a secret? Why not tell us the truth? Mia crossed her arms, her sharp mind piecing together the implications. Because they didn't want us to know. They didn't want anyone to know. This war, it's not just about survival. It's about control. The team fell silent, the weight of the revelation settling over them. They had signed up for a challenge, but they had stumbled into something far more dangerous. As they delved deeper into the hub, they found more evidence of the Galactic Council's deception. The simulation wasn't just a training tool, it was a weapon. It was designed to test cadets, to identify the strongest and most resourceful, and to recruit them for the war. But there was more. The war wasn't just a conflict between species, it was a fight for survival. A mysterious enemy, known only as the Void, was spreading across the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. The Galactic Council had been fighting a losing battle, and they were desperate for new soldiers. The humans realized that they weren't just cadets, they were pawns in a much larger game. The revelation left the team with a difficult choice. They could continue the simulation, prove their worth, and be recruited for the war. Or they could expose the truth, risk everything, and try to stop the war before it consumed the galaxy. It was a moral dilemma, one that tested their values and their resolve. They had come to the academy to prove themselves, to show that they belonged in the galaxy. But now, they were faced with a choice that could change everything. Alex turned to the team, his expression serious. "We need to decide what to do. If we continue, we're playing into the Council's hands. If we expose the truth, we risk everything. But if we do nothing, the galaxy will burn. Mia stepped forward, her usual cheerfulness replaced by a rare seriousness. We didn't come this far to back down. We're Deathworlders. We don't run from a fight. Jake nodded, his quiet determination shining through. We have to expose the truth. The galaxy deserves to know what's really going on. The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks, but they also knew what they had to do. As they prepared to leave the hub, the simulation struck. The walls around them began to close in, the holographic displays flickering and dying. The simulation was trying to trap them, to silence them before they could expose the truth. But the humans weren't about to be silenced. Alex led the team through the collapsing hub, their weapons at the ready as they fought their way to the exit. The simulation threw everything it had at them, drones, turrets, robotic creatures, but the humans fought back with everything they had. It was a brutal battle, one that pushed them to their limits. But they refused to give up. They had come too far, seen too much, to back down now. When they finally reached the exit, they were battered and exhausted, but alive. The hub collapsed behind them, the simulation's central hub reduced to rubble. But the humans knew their fight was far from over. They had uncovered the truth, but they still had to expose it. And they knew the Galactic Council wouldn't let them go without a fight. As they stood on the icy plain, the weight of their decision settled over them. They had chosen to stand against the Council, to fight for the truth. And they knew the road ahead would be difficult. But they were ready. The humans stood on the icy plain, the collapsed hub of the simulation behind them. The wind howled around them, biting through their suits, but they barely felt it. Their minds were racing, their hearts pounding with the weight of what they had discovered. They had uncovered the truth, the Galactic Council's secret war, the simulation's true purpose, and the looming threat of the void. But knowing the truth wasn't enough. They had to expose it. Alex turned to the team, his expression grim but determined. We need to get this information out. If the galaxy doesn't know what's coming, they won't stand a chance. Mia nodded, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. But how? The Council controls everything, communications, media, even the Academy. If we try to broadcast this, they'll shut us down before we even start. Jake, who had been quietly analyzing the data they had salvaged from the hub, spoke up. There's a way. The simulation systems are connected to the galactic network. If we can hack into it, we can bypass the Council's controls and broadcast the truth directly to the galaxy. The team exchanged uneasy glances. It was a risky plan, one that could backfire spectacularly. But they knew they had no other choice. Let's do it, Alex said, his voice firm. But we need to move fast. The Council will be looking for us. The journey back to their base was tense. The simulation's defenses were still active, and the humans had to navigate through a gauntlet of drones, turrets, and robotic creatures. But they were determined, their resolve unshakable. When they finally reached their base, they got to work immediately. Jake set up a makeshift workstation, using the data pad and the salvaged equipment to hack into the galactic network. The others kept watch, their weapons at the ready as they prepared for the inevitable attack. As Jake worked, the tension in the room grew. Every second felt like an eternity, every sound a potential threat. But the humans didn't falter. They had come too far to back down now. Finally, after what felt like hours, Jake looked up from the data pad, his eyes filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. I'm in. I've accessed the galactic network. But once I start the broadcast, the Council will know. We'll have to move fast. Alex nodded, his expression serious. Do it. We'll cover you. Jake took a deep breath, his fingers flying over the controls. The holographic display in front of him flickered to life, showing a live feed of the galaxy's major communication channels. This is it, Jake said, his voice steady. Once I hit this button, the truth will be out there. There's no turning back. The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. "Do it," Alex said, his voice filled with resolve. Jake pressed the button. The broadcast began with a burst of static, followed by a clear, crisp image of the humans standing in their base. Alex stepped forward, his face filling the screen as he addressed the galaxy. "People of the galaxy," he began, his voice firm and unwavering. "My name is Alex, and I am a cadet at the Galactic Academy. What I am about to tell you will change everything." He paused, letting his words sink in. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in stunned silence as Alex revealed the truth, the Galactic Council's secret war, the simulation's true purpose, and the looming threat of the void. The broadcast was raw and unfiltered, filled with images and data from the simulation's hub. It showed the devastation of the war, the Council's deception, and the humans' journey to uncover the truth. As the broadcast continued, the galaxy erupted into chaos. People were shocked, angry, and afraid. The Council's carefully constructed lies were unraveling, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. But the humans knew their victory was far from assured. The Council would retaliate, and they would do so with everything they had. As if on cue, the base's alarms blared, the sound echoing through the room. The holographic display flickered, showing a fleet of Council ships approaching their location. "They're here," Mia said, her voice tense. "We need to move. Now." The team grabbed their gear and sprinted out of the base, their hearts pounding as they prepared for the fight of their lives. The Council's ships descended on the planet, their weapons trained on the humans' base. But the humans were ready. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment, and they weren't about to go down without a fight. Alex led the team through the rugged terrain, using their knowledge of the planet to stay one step ahead of the Council's forces. They moved quickly and quietly, their weapons at the ready as they prepared to make their stand. But the Council wasn't just sending soldiers, they were sending a message. The humans had defied them, exposed their secrets, and now they would pay the price. As the humans reached a rocky outcrop, they were met with a sight that made their blood run cold. A massive Council warship hovered above them, its weapons glowing with a deadly light. "This is it," Alex said, his voice steady but urgent. "We make our stand here." The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew they had no other choice. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Council's forces were relentless, their weapons tearing through the terrain as they tried to crush the humans. But the humans fought back with everything they had, their determination unshakable. Alex led the charge, his calm demeanor steadying the team as they faced wave after wave of enemies. Mia's sharp eyes and quick reflexes kept them one step ahead, while Jake's strategic mind turned the terrain into a weapon. But the Council's forces were overwhelming, and the humans were quickly running out of options. As the battle raged on, Alex realized they couldn't win. Not like this. They needed a new plan, one that would turn the tide in their favor. "Fall back," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to regroup." The team retreated to a nearby cave, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they prepared for the next wave. Inside the cave, the team huddled together, their minds racing as they tried to come up with a plan. They knew they couldn't hold out much longer, but they also knew they couldn't give up. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Jake said, his voice filled with determination. "Their ships are powered by a central core. If we can destroy it, we can disable their fleet." Alex nodded, his expression grim. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. Let's do it." The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The cave was dark and damp, the air thick with tension. The humans huddled together, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they tried to come up with a plan. The Council's fleet loomed outside, their weapons trained on the cave's entrance. The humans were trapped, but they weren't defeated, not yet. Alex leaned against the cave wall, his mind racing. "We need to hit their core," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "If we can disable it, we can take out their fleet. But we'll need to get inside their ship." Mia frowned, her sharp eyes scanning the group. "And how do we do that? They've got the place surrounded. We can't just walk in." Jake, who had been quietly studying the data pad, spoke up. "There's a way. Their ships have a blind spot, a maintenance hatch on the underside. If we can get to it, we can sneak inside." The team exchanged uneasy glances. It was a risky plan, one that could easily go wrong. But they knew they had no other choice. "Let's do it," Alex said, his voice filled with resolve. "But we'll need to move fast. Once we're inside, we'll have to find the core and disable it before they realize what's happening." The team moved quickly, their footsteps silent as they made their way to the cave's rear exit. The Council's forces were focused on the front, their weapons trained on the entrance as they prepared to storm the cave. The humans slipped out unnoticed, their movements swift and precise. They had grown up on a planet where survival often meant staying hidden, and now, that skill was their greatest weapon. As they approached the Council's flagship, they could feel the tension in the air. The ship was massive, its hull gleaming in the dim light. But the humans didn't let its size intimidate them. They had faced worse on Earth, storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite. They knew how to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. When they reached the maintenance hatch, Jake got to work, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to bypass the ship's security systems. It was a delicate process, one that required precision and focus. One wrong move, and the ship's alarms would go off, alerting the Council's forces to their presence. But Jake was good at what he did. After a few tense moments, the hatch hissed open, revealing a dark, narrow passageway. The team exchanged determined glances. This was it. Inside the ship, the air was thick with the hum of machinery. The passageway was cramped and dimly lit, but the humans moved quickly and quietly, their senses on high alert. They knew the ship's layout from the data they had salvaged, and they used that knowledge to navigate through the maze of corridors. But they also knew the Council's forces would be patrolling the ship, and they had to be careful. As they approached the ship's core, the tension in the air grew. The core was the heart of the ship, the source of its power. If they could disable it, they could take out the entire fleet. But getting to the core wouldn't be easy. The area was heavily guarded, with automated turrets and robotic sentries patrolling the corridors. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready as they prepared for the fight ahead. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. When they reached the core, they were met with a sight that made their blood run cold. The core was massive, a glowing sphere of energy that pulsed with a faint, eerie light. But it was also heavily guarded, with a dozen robotic sentries standing between them and their goal. Alex turned to the team, his expression grim. "We need to take them out. But we'll have to do it quickly. If they alert the Council, we're done for." The team nodded, their determination unwavering. They had come too far to back down now. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The robotic sentries were fast and relentless, their weapons tearing through the air as they tried to stop the humans. But the humans fought back with everything they had, their determination unshakable. Alex led the charge, his calm demeanor steadying the team as they faced wave after wave of enemies. Mia's sharp eyes and quick reflexes kept them one step ahead, while Jake's strategic mind turned the terrain into a weapon. But the sentries were overwhelming, and the humans were quickly running out of options. As the battle raged on, Alex realized they couldn't win. Not like this. They needed a new plan, one that would turn the tide in their favor. "Fall back," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to regroup." The team retreated to a nearby alcove, their breaths coming in ragged gasps as they prepared for the next wave. Inside the alcove, the team huddled together, their minds racing as they tried to come up with a plan. They knew they couldn't hold out much longer, but they also knew they couldn't give up. "We need to hit the core directly," Jake said, his voice filled with determination. "If we can overload it, we can disable the entire ship." Alex nodded, his expression grim. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. Let's do it." The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The plan was simple but dangerous. Jake would hack into the core's systems and trigger an overload, while the others covered him. It was a race against time, one that could easily end in disaster. But the humans were ready. They had faced worse on Earth, storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite. They knew how to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. As Jake worked, the others kept watch, their weapons at the ready as they prepared for the inevitable attack. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Jake looked up from the data pad, his eyes filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's done. The core's overloading. We need to get out of here. Now." The team didn't need to be told twice. They sprinted through the ship's corridors, their hearts pounding as the core's energy levels began to rise. When they reached the maintenance hatch, they could feel the ship shaking beneath their feet. The core was about to blow, and they were running out of time. As they jumped from the ship, the core exploded, sending a shockwave rippling through the air. The humans were thrown to the ground, their ears ringing as the ship's hull collapsed in on itself. When the dust settled, the humans stood up, their eyes wide with shock. The Council's flagship was gone, reduced to a smoldering wreck. The rest of the fleet was in disarray, their systems disabled by the core's overload. The humans had done it. They had disabled the fleet and exposed the Council's deception. But they knew their fight was far from over. The galaxy was in chaos. The Council's downfall had left a power vacuum, and the revelation of the Void's existence had spread fear and uncertainty across the stars. But amidst the chaos, there was hope, a hope that the humans had ignited. The humans had become symbols of resistance, their actions inspiring countless species to rise up and demand change. The galaxy was no longer willing to blindly follow the Council's lies. They wanted the truth, and they were ready to fight for it. But the humans knew their fight was far from over. The Void was still out there, a mysterious and unstoppable force that threatened to consume everything in its path. And now, with the Council gone, it was up to the galaxy to unite and face the threat together. The humans returned to the Galactic Academy, not as cadets, but as leaders. They had proven themselves in the face of overwhelming odds, and now, the galaxy looked to them for guidance. Alex stood at the center of the Academy's main hall, his eyes scanning the crowd of species that had gathered. They were all different, tall and short, armored and soft, with eyes of every color and shape. But they were united by a common goal: survival. "We've all seen the truth," Alex said, his voice steady and strong. "The Council lied to us, manipulated us, and used us. But we're not pawns. We're not tools. We're beings of strength, of courage, of resilience. And together, we can face the Void." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the hall. The humans had ignited a spark, and now, that spark was growing into a flame. But the Void was coming, and they had no time to waste. The humans worked tirelessly, using their knowledge and skills to prepare the galaxy for the battle ahead. They trained soldiers, built ships, and fortified planets. They reached out to every species, every colony, every outpost, urging them to join the fight. It wasn't easy. Old rivalries and prejudices threatened to tear the fragile alliance apart. But the humans refused to give up. They had faced worse on Earth, storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite. They knew how to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. And they knew how to inspire others to do the same. As the days turned into weeks, the galaxy began to change. Species that had once been enemies now fought side by side. Planets that had once been isolated now shared resources and knowledge. The galaxy was no longer a collection of separate worlds, it was a united front, ready to face the void. But the humans knew the real test was still to come. The void arrived without warning, a dark, swirling mass that consumed everything in its path. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a force of pure destruction, relentless and unstoppable. The galaxy's forces gathered at the edge of the void, their ships forming a massive fleet that stretched across the stars. The humans were at the forefront, their determination unwavering as they prepared for the battle ahead. Alex stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the void. "This is it," he said, his voice steady but urgent. "We've trained for this. We've prepared for this. And now, we fight for our survival." The team exchanged determined glances. They had come too far to back down now. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The void's forces were relentless, their dark tendrils tearing through the galaxy's ships like paper. But the galaxy's forces fought back with everything they had, their determination unshakable. The humans led the charge, their ships weaving through the chaos as they targeted the void's weak points. Alex's calm demeanor steadied the fleet, Mia's sharp eyes and quick reflexes kept them one step ahead, and Jake's strategic mind turned the tide of the battle. But the void was overwhelming, and the galaxy's forces were quickly running out of options. As the battle raged on, Alex realized they couldn't win. Not like this. They needed a new plan, one that would turn the tide in their favor. "Fall back," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to regroup." The fleet retreated to a nearby asteroid field, their ships battered and broken as they prepared for the next wave. Inside the flagship, the humans huddled together, their minds racing as they tried to come up with a plan. They knew they couldn't hold out much longer, but they also knew they couldn't give up. "We need to hit the void directly," Jake said, his voice filled with determination. "If we can disrupt its core, we can weaken it." Alex nodded, his expression grim. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. Let's do it." The team exchanged determined glances. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The plan was simple but dangerous. The humans would lead a small strike team into the heart of the void, using their ships to disrupt its core. It was a suicide mission, one that could easily end in disaster. But the humans were ready. They had faced worse on Earth, storms that could tear apart cities, predators that could crush bones with a single bite. They knew how to survive in the face of overwhelming odds. As they prepared for the mission, the galaxy's forces gathered around them, their ships forming a protective barrier as they prepared to cover the humans' retreat. The strike team launched, their ships darting through the chaos as they made their way to the void's core. The void's forces were relentless, their dark tendrils lashing out at the ships as they tried to stop them. But the humans fought back with everything they had, their determination unshakable. When they reached the core, they were met with a sight that made their blood run cold. The core was massive, a swirling mass of darkness that pulsed with a faint, eerie light. But it was also heavily guarded, with countless void creatures standing between them and their goal. Alex turned to the team, his expression grim. "This is it. We hit the core, and we hit it hard." The team nodded, their determination unwavering. They had come too far to back down now. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The void's creatures were fast and relentless, their dark tendrils tearing through the ships as they tried to stop the humans. But the humans fought back with everything they had, their determination unshakable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the core. Jake triggered the disruptor, sending a shockwave rippling through the void. The core began to collapse, its dark tendrils retreating as the void's power waned. The humans had done it. They had weakened the void and given the galaxy a chance to fight back. As the void retreated, the galaxy's forces erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the stars. The humans had done the impossible, they had united the galaxy and faced the void together. But the humans knew their fight was far from over. The void was still out there, a threat that would never truly be gone. But now, the galaxy was ready. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, united by a common goal, survival. As the humans returned to the academy, they were met with a hero's welcome. The galaxy had changed, and they had been the catalyst. They had shown that even in the face of overwhelming odds, unity and resilience could prevail. Alex stood at the center of the hall, his eyes scanning the crowd. "We've all seen the darkness," he said, his voice steady and strong. "But we've also seen the light. The light of unity, of courage, of hope. And as long as we stand together, we can face anything." The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the hall. The humans had ignited a spark, and now, that spark was a flame that would light the way for generations to come.